Howdy, my name is Roger. I love my country, my truck, and Power Platform best practices. If you're serious about becoming a Power Platform solutions architect, join the Architects Accelerator. Now enough of my fake Southern accent, and let's hear from an actual participant of the program, Anna Black.
Hi, I'm Anna Black. I'm the creator of Power Platform Cookbook. I joined the Architects Accelerator because I saw a post from Magdalena and she was so positive and inspired me to join and see what it's all about. Before joining the accelerator, I was avoiding AI, and then when I saw how to apply AI and practice like soft skills, and it just like it really opened my mind to try different things for myself with different tools and everything. It really helps you to evaluate what you know and what you don't know, because when you are doing your job for like so many years, you might be missing a trick and like a different approach. So it really helped me to look at the problems from a different angle. And it was really great to meet with people and be like a part of another community and exchange ideas and so on. So yeah, lots of benefits that did change my life. So thank you.
The link is in the show notes, or go to untethered365.com to learn more.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Sprint Zero podcast. My name is John Russell, and I'm here with my co-partner crab in crime, Mike Gowland. Hello Mike, how are you?
I don't know if I should still be the crab anymore.
Why?
I don't know. Should I change my spirit animal, or should I just stick with the crab, do you think?
Well, I mean, I've got the rat, so maybe we could both do it.
We could swap.
Maybe we could ask our guests.
We could ask our guests. Yeah, it's a double whammy today.
I mean, what a segue.
Hey.
Today we are joined by Kayleigh Duddy and Lynsey Winchurch. I met them both when Mike and I first presented at Bletchley Park back in December last year. Kayleigh works at ANS as a Dynamics 365 functional lead, and Lynsey as a Power Platform functional team lead at Crimson. This Dynamics duo, wow,
Love that.
have championed each other by being each other's accountability partner. We will come to that in due course, and breaking down barriers in a predominantly male field of work. Thanks for joining us today. How are you both? You good?
Yeah.
Good, thank you. Yourself?
Yes, pretty good, thank you. Yeah, not bad.
Nice. So we, in fact, it's actually not in the questions, John. This is quite interesting, but we normally get you guys just to give a little bit of background as to your career journey. So, would you?
Yeah, sure.
Who would like to go first? Put your hand up.
We come as a duo, so
Okay.
we this is the thing. So Lynsey and I actually started our journey into Dynamics together. So we both worked at a charity, and we didn't know each other. And Lynsey worked in the UK and I worked overseas, and they were after some super users for a third-party managed on-prem system. That was 2010 for me. I think 2012 maybe for Lynsey, somewhere around there, early 2010s ish. We both got given the role and then kind of got merged together, and we lost our consultant, and we sort of made the journey and found our way through there, didn't we? And then Lynsey abandoned me and went and worked somewhere else.
That sounds familiar.
I know, she's never let me live that
down. We might be
down.
one all here on that one.
Left me to do it.
That sounds really familiar. Whoever seen that situation happen before.
But yeah, Lynsey, do you want to talk about when you did run off and leave me?
I did run off and leave her. Shocking, right? We were very blinkered, I think, at that point when we were working for that charity, that this system we were using was just us and no one else in the world had anything like it. And then all of a sudden our eyes were open to the fact that, oh no, this is a Microsoft system, and actually millions of people use this, and there's a career in this. So I'd seen a couple of adverts and kind of thought, well, actually, reading through the job description, I do all of that sort of stuff. And my husband said to me, you should apply. And I went, nah, I couldn't do that. Applied and did get it. So Kayleigh never let me live it down. I then moved over to a private healthcare company and was just looking after their CRM system, which was online at that point, which again was a switch up for me. And I remember Kayleigh and I having calls and me sort of saying to her, oh my God, it's so different. It's so different from on-prem and the, 3.4 we were currently using. So yeah, it started that trajectory for me. just working with different people in a different space, working with a Microsoft partner, which happened to be Crimson, who I work for now. And that's where my link came from. So I worked with Crimson as my consultant for, well, a total of about 6 years, I think it was, and a couple of different roles that I had at that company. And yeah, it just became a natural progression then for me to move into consultancy. But it was a big step, and I know we'll probably talk a bit more about that in a minute. But then then Kayleigh kind of joined me.
Yeah,
she
remembered
me.
me
I
and
couldn't get
then
rid of
brought
her.
me back.
So it sounds like you two sort of come as as quite a cool package. But what's it mean to be an accountability partner?
So for me, I don't think I'd be where I was now if I hadn't have met Lynsey. But on the flip side of that, I don't think Lynsey would be where she was now if it wasn't for me. So when you
100%
have
not.
those self-doubts and you think, oh, I couldn't possibly do that, that's unattainable for me, and you get the imposter syndrome. Lynsey will describe this as she's my cheerleader, to go, no, you do that already, stop being silly, it doesn't matter about the way. I'm very conscious about the way I speak, and this Brummy accent of mine, and what people are going to perceive, and all of the social mobility stuff that comes in that. And she's like, no, absolutely not, Kayleigh, you go, you smash it, you can do this. And I do the same for her. And we don't let each other stagnate. We set personal development goals, and we do that in our own time. We might go for an exam together. Traditionally, it used to be it sort of stemmed from the days when you remember you used to pay about, I don't know, £2,000 to go on a dynamics course, and you had the manual and all of that kind of stuff. Generally speaking, one of us would do the sales and one of us would do a customer service day, and then we'd really focus in that course so we could teach the other one.
Oh, nice.
So
really cool.
So we did that, and we still kind of do that now, don't we, Lyns?
We do. Yeah, we had a call this morning actually about what we're going to do next.
Yeah.
And what are you going to do next?
Well, we're looking at some of the more the architecture pieces now. We're starting to think about how we can look at some of the success by design and fast track sort of stuff together, and learn some of that extra bits and bobs. So yeah, we set like a plan.
Coupled with all the co-pilot stuff that we've been kind of really interested in for the last 12 months, and like you said, how we met you guys as well. So that's still very much on the radar as well.
Nice. So I'm gonna swap a couple of questions around because I think it just makes sense to ask this question now. So, being each other's accountability partner, how has that influenced your professional growth and your personal well-being?
Hugely. Absolutely. 100%. Like Kayleigh said, she wouldn't be where she is now without me, and vice versa. It's absolutely true. We absolutely have just, it is what it says. It's accountability. So it's one thing to take yourself and know that you work in this industry that needs continuous development. You're always learning. Every day is a learning day, isn't it? But to kind of have that connection with somebody else where we're kind of pretty much on the same level. We always have been. Occasionally we sort of, one goes up a bit further and then the other plays catch up, and vice versa. But we'll have these calls and just be like, okay, so what have you done since we last spoke, or what are we both going to do before we next speak? And we'll put in regular catch ups. So we are motivating each other. We are pushing each other in terms of things like certifications or applied skills, all those sorts of things. It kind of, I wouldn't say we're not competitive. It doesn't really become a competition. But it does. If Kayleigh says, "Oh, actually, Lyns, I want to do this applied skill this weekend," I'll go, "Yeah, all right then. Why not? I've got nothing on. I'll have a go too." So it kind of just, and I might not have done that otherwise. So that all has kind of led into and filtered into our career development. And that whole, when I said, "Oh, I'm going to go to Crimson," I've been talking to Crimson. I'm going to make that jump into consultancy. It just so happened it was very well timed. And Kayleigh was at a point as well at the charity that we were both at previously where she'd done so much stuff, but was kind of at that point that she didn't have a consultancy partner to work with. So she was self-learning, and it kind of got to that point where, what else can you do there? Like, do you need to make that jump? So again, it was that encouragement. So we both kind of jumped into consultancy at the same time. And then in the last, 3.5 years, we've both been sort of, like she said, cheering each other on. And then when Kayleigh's recently moved on and has come and joined you guys over at ANS, again, that was that conversation that she was like, oh, I don't know if I can, I don't know. And I was like, absolutely you can. This is definitely like a good step for you. You know, and that, or when that doubt creeps in, when these opportunities sort of present themselves, that the other one will just push, you know, or encourage more than push, you know.
So you're like a kind of on each other's shoulder a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the thing is, it's important for me that we have this outside of anything to do with our work. So it's not like a line manager responsibility.
No.
You can't control who your line manager is sometimes, and sometimes you don't always agree with what they're saying or the direction that they're trying to push you. And you can have a mentor, and that's great. But this is because we're both on the same level. We're experiencing these things together, and we're navigating the challenges that come up together. And we presented at the South Coast Summit together on end user to consultancy and that journey. And I wouldn't have stood up there as a first time speaker at the SCS on my own. But having Lynsey there with me was like, okay, together we can do this. And that's very much how I feel about it. Together we can do anything. So
Kayleigh comes up with a lot of ideas for us, and she kind of, we joke, I say she drags me along for the ride, but she'll come up with these ideas and go, oh, I know what we should do do this. I actually think this podcast was one of them. She went, yeah, John, we'll do that. I was like, what do you mean we will do that? She was like, yeah, we will do that. We come as a package.
Do you
Okay.
and this,
I think it is very similar. Yeah, I think we both come up with ideas like that, and sometimes we will drag the other one kicking and screaming through something, won't we? Like definitely AI. I think we sort of both dragged each other through that. And then there's other things as well that you sort of like said, no, you should do this, and you drag me along for the ride, and I come through it. And same with me as well. Like I've like done things and been like, John, come look at this, and just going to drag you through all this that I've done.
And I don't know what, this is a bit weird. I feel a bit emotional about it. Like I because I really respect Mike, right? And and like, you know, he has a lot of stuff going on in the background, as do everyone. But
like what?
You know, family, and you know, the bit of problem that you had with your health earlier on in the year.
Oh yeah, that's fine.
And like I you know, when that happened, I realised how strong our connection was, and how much it's built on a level of respect that you don't actually get. I don't think, and obviously we're friends, I get that, but I think with the work element as well, it's a different level of respect with each other that you would normally, that I don't think sometimes you have even with close friends. It's hard to explain that.
It's like we've got each other's backs.
Yeah, pretty much in everything. And we can say anything to each other, and we can call each other out on things if, you know, and that's happened before. It's happened on a podcast recording.
Yeah.
I'll tell you that more in detail when I see you. But like, you know, that was a particular moment where I thought, oh, I'm saying something that's okay, and it absolutely was not okay.
No.
And Mike was like, nah, that's not on. So, I just wanted to say I appreciate it, and there you go. I won't get emotional anymore. So
it is that though. It's giving each other a leg up, and we've done something when we were both at Crimson. We did something around how valuable this is, and we've inspired two other young ladies that work there to kind of form the same relationship. And I think if you can do this, that's one of the reasons that we wanted to do this podcast. If you can do this, if you find somebody, just approach them and say, hey, you know, could we work together? Could we do this? Because for me, I wouldn't be where I was now otherwise.
What do you think are the key differences then between a mentor-mentee relationship and an accountability partner relationship?
So for me, it's for a mentor, I'm going for guidance, right? But I'm going for guidance because that mentee-mentor relationship kind of assumes that somebody's got something that the other one aspires to.
Yeah.
And really, this accountability relationship is, how do we form a plan and rise together.
Mm.
It's not about the focus isn't just purely on one, it's on both. How do we both do this? How do we both get what we can get? That's what I think. Lindsay,
Yeah,
yeah.
totally
I think
agree.
it's
We
very
did, we did
powerful
quite a
stuff.
bit of research around it as well, didn't we, before we did that presentation internally at Crimson. But yeah, and we didn't even realise that it was a thing. We kind of called it each other our accountability partners. But what we didn't realise is when you put that into Google, it's actually a thing.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
Wow.
that's what we do. Okay, right. So there's a word for it, and we had it right.
I think the message that you've got now, even because you're in different places and you're still doing it, I think it crosses over from that internal presentation to something that I think a lot of people would resonate with, and a lot of people would connect with on a larger conference kind of scale.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you should
Maybe that's
definitely.
something
Careful, she'll come up with an
We'll do
idea
that.
now.
No, I've already sowed the seed. So she's done it. She's like
5K Summit 2025.
2024, more like.
Yeah.
So as we're talking about that, kind of what role did community events play in your transition from end users to consultants?
So we didn't really do them until we became consultants, and I think I wish we'd done more of them as being an end user.
Yeah.
Because we didn't really realise we lived in a bubble, and I was quite isolated because I was overseas, right? So there wasn't really much kicking off in Cyprus at the time. It's not a hub of a Dynamics user group. There is no D365 Cyprus.
You should have set one up. It'd have been you.
Man, it would have
Just
been
you.
me, just me. No, but it wasn't a thing. So I did go on a couple of calls. I think there was a virtual call over COVID, and I remember Andrew Bibby being on there and stuff like that. So there were voices that I was listening to around, but a lot more of the content wasn't really user group focused. But then once we were in, we really advocated them at Crimson. They weren't sold initially. They are now. That these were so useful to everything, and I just think for me, it's that validation, because a lot of what I was doing was siloed on my project, and it's what I was doing, and I'd kind of figured it out myself. And especially when I had no partner, it was kind of, I think this is the right way to put things together. And what shocks me massively is that actually with no consultant and no partner, I somehow managed to figure it out, and I was somehow quite aligned to best practices. But it was from watching those videos and getting those voices around, and it's a bit of validation, I think, of things. Yeah.
Totally agree. It was it's definitely something that's grown quite a few legs now, I think, internally where I still am. We've got a group of people that are really quite interested in or certainly the local user groups sort of around Birmingham. When we turn it into a bit more of a social thing as well, don't we? We would have groups of people that, and we'll go, oh, do you know what? Let's go out for a bite to eat beforehand, or let's meet up for a drink beforehand. So we start off, we're getting to know colleagues better. It might be colleagues that we don't work on projects with very often, but then we're going into these user groups and actually meeting more people around them. So the AI user groups coming into things now more. There's more people, we'll go into the office for the day and then carpool down to Milton Keynes, that sort of stuff. And then with the likes of the bigger summits and stuff, we came back. The first major one that Kayleigh and I went to was Scottish Summit in 2022, I think it was. And we came back from that just raving. We'd sort of got together after the event and gone, right, what's our top 10 takeaways? And we couldn't narrow it down to 10. I think we ended up with 12, didn't we? And we played that back to everyone. And it just started generating that interest, So that's where then, when we ended up doing that presentation at South Coast Summit 23, on the journey from end user to consultant, that we were trying to sort of find other people like us who were ready, who might be using these community events and might be thinking about that, to actually, say, look, we did it. If we could do it, anybody could do it, So
And it helped outside of work as well. I mean, because we came away from that Scottish Summit really emotional, because we listened to Donna Sarker's end close speech, and I'm dyslexic, and I hadn't told anybody that I was dyslexic at work. I was diagnosed when I was at school, and I'd hidden that because in my head it made me stupid, and it was something that I should hide in the workplace, otherwise I would not achieve and get better. And Lynsey knew, and at that speech just hit home so hard that we sort of turned to each other, and Lynsey, again, that accountability with partner relationship, said, do you feel comfortable to speak about this now? And I said, yeah. And Lynsey really supported me talking to people at Crimson. It led to us having an ERG in the end around it that was global and group wide. But it was that accountability relationship, because even if I'd gone to that user group all on my own, I still wouldn't have come across with the confidence and had that support to disclose things in the workplace. Yeah.
So that's interesting. Like yesterday, in fact, we found out that my eldest daughter's dyslexic, and yeah, it's people like, you know, you yourself talking about it, Donna talking about it, and you kind of look at, like, you know, where they are and what they're doing, you know, and things are possible. I think the stigma of it, I mean, I think the stigma of it is definitely less than it was back in, you know, a while ago. My uncle mentioned it to me the other day when it came up, and he was pretty sure that he is dyslexic, but it's not really known back then, and they were kind of forced into like lower set classes and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, well done for talking about it and getting it out there. I think it's really admirable and important.
Yeah, it is that stigma though. It's a very internalized stigma, because and I think I like to think it is better, you know, these days. But you know, in the 80s, 90s, when I was at school,
very different.
It very, very different, and then it's very hard to shake that that sort of stigma.
It's like indoctrination, really, isn't it? Internal indoctrination. You don't know whether or not you can talk about it or not.
Yeah. So, do you two listen to the podcast?
We do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not
Always an awkward question to ask.
Right.
Yeah. No. It's one of those things where you see the notification pop up. Because I mean, I think I'm probably similar to a lot of people now, that certainly with the present company, I spend more time on LinkedIn than I do on any other social media platform. It's kind of overtaken everything. So you see the notifications come up and go, oh yeah, favourite that. I'll go and have a look at that. And I might not get to it straight away, but I tend to get to most of them at some point or another, especially if I've got a long journey or something like that. So I listen to you two quite a lot.
Have you had any favourite ones that you've liked?
My favourite has got to be Laura's, right? That was just like, I was like, proud mom moment.
Explain that a little bit. That was real strange.
So the military charity that Lynsey and I both worked at, Laura Webb also worked there. And so Laura had come on one of your earlier ones, wasn't it?
Episode 3.
She'd gone on to speak about things, and Laura's journey, and she spoke about her journey at the charity, where they didn't really support her to move into this space, and she was finding it difficult. And I remember having a chat with Laura and saying to her, the people that you're asking for advice from, are they people that you aspire to be, or do they have anything that you aspire to be about them? And she was like, no. And I was like, who do you want to be like? Go find those people. I'll give you some names. Speak to them. Let them be your role models and nobody else. You don't look to anyone else. And we've kept quite a good relationship, and we've talked, although in her podcast I do need to teach her where Plymouth is on a map, because that's where I live, and she said I lived up north. But she spoke about the things, and hearing it from her perspective, I've heard it obviously over the years, but hearing her compress it into one podcast and speak about that experience was just, I was so proud of her. I am massively proud of Laura.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, nice. She's awesome.
So you guys know we have a section called Uncomfortable Corner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uncomfortable Corner.
So, this is for both of you. When was the last time, either individually or together, you felt uncomfortable, whether it was in or out of work? Explain how you felt and how you managed to get through it.
Well, we've kind of already touched on the main thing that comes to my mind, and it wasn't something particularly recent, but it was that closing keynote speech that Donna Sarker did at the Scottish Summit 2022. It was it was both a light bulb moment, but also a really uncomfortable moment at the same time, to be sat next to Kayleigh, who I knew had internalized stuff that she hadn't told anybody else at work. But I sat there, and one of the things Donna was talking about, I still listen to that. I go back onto YouTube and I watch that back quite regularly, actually. And I tell, well, between us, we've told so many people about this and sent the link out. She talked about well-being shaming. And yes, you've got the well-being shaming where, I don't know, someone might go, oh, well, I worked 45 hours last week. Oh, well, actually, I worked 60. So I'm obviously working harder than you. Not that kind of well-being shaming. The other side of it, the flip side of it, when, I don't know, you log on in the morning and you see that somebody had sent you an email at 11:30 at night, and you message that person. And hands up, I've done this with Kayleigh because she's been known to do stuff like that. And I would message her and go, what on earth were you sending emails for at 11:30 last night? Like, go to bed, that kind of stuff. And then what Donna was saying about the well-being shaming was, it goes that way too. Do you know what? Sending emails at 11:30 at night might actually work really, really well for Kayleigh and her family and her situation. So who am I to say to her, you shouldn't be doing that? You should be in bed, just because that's what I think. So that was what really, really got to me in Donna's keynote. And when we came out, I turned around to Kayleigh and I was like, I am genuinely so sorry for ever having made you feel that way. I can't believe I've done that. I didn't even realize I was doing it. I'm so sorry. And that's when that whole conversation opened up. And I was really emotional, but it was like, it came from an uncomfortable position of, oh my God, I've done that to somebody. I feel really bad about doing that to somebody who I respect, who I care for, who's a really, really good friend of mine.
Yeah.
And then I start thinking about, when else have I done that? So that was quite an uncomfortable moment.
It comes from a good place, that though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's not it's not something that's malicious. It's you looking out for Kayleigh to make sure that she does have good well-being, right? And I've been in a similar situation very recently, actually, and I think I navigated it okay. But one of our newer consultants mentioned to me that he was doing something at 11 o'clock at night. It wasn't so. Because I've been there as well. I've done the whole I've pulled an all-nighter to try and get something built for the next day, and it's just not I just don't advise anybody ever do that. Like, if it doesn't get built, it doesn't get built. It's not the end of the world. The world's not going to crumble around you. But yeah, it's just I've never really thought about how you do actually approach that and how it can be sensitive to people.
It is different.
We all work differently, right? And especially with more flexible working being promoted more in different employers. Some people do work at 11 o'clock at night. It's just what they do.
Well, for me, it's less that. It's we maybe have had a problem in the day, all day, and we're thinking, how do we solve this problem? How do we solve this problem? And then I will be just relaxing. I'll just be starting to switch my brain off, and I'll go, oh, that's how we do it. Oh my God, that's 100% how we do it. And if I don't send that right there in that moment, then I will think about that all night and I won't sleep. So it's better for me to log on, send it, and then be able to put that away, put that in its box and go to sleep, than it is to wait until the next morning when it's acceptable to send the email. And scheduled send has been amazing.
I found a trick though. Scheduled send.
Yeah, and this was before scheduled send. So this was it has been amazing for me, because before scheduled send, that was a proper issue. Like, everyone knew you were sending it at 12 o'clock, just as you know what I mean? Now it's a little bit, although that does get, do you ever get cringe moments with scheduled send, John, when I've sent a message and then I didn't realise that person was going to be in the office, and I forget I've sent the message, and they're like, why didn't you just tell me that over the thing? And I'm like, sent on scheduled send.
The worst is when you schedule send and the other person doesn't, and they actually reply to email before you send your scheduled send message, and it's completely out of context.
What I've started doing is saying, this is a message to the future, and I open my scheduled sends like that.
That's the context.
John, what is it your wife says when you're in that situation, when you're lying in bed? She says, oh, I can hear your brain working.
Yeah, she says, I can hear your brain whirring. Yeah, like a weird kind of energy, and then it'll get so intense. She will just go, God's sake, just go and do it. Like,
Yeah.
go and do it. And last
Yeah.
night, because my daughter was not very well and she was in with my wife, I was sleeping in the office, and that's a nightmare because that's where the laptop is, and I'm like, oh my God, what am I
The
gonna do?
temptation.
Yeah. But no, I was a good boy last night. Yeah, so that's all right. That's fine. Yeah. Yeah. So, Kayleigh, are you thinking similar kind of thing on that
I
uncomfortable
suppose the
corner?
uncomfortable corner for me would be linked to the dyslexia. I mean, like
Yeah.
speaking about it, it's been huge. The ERG that we started,
What does that stand for? Sorry, ERG.
employee resource group. So it's a bit like your ED&I communities, but it's a little bit different to those. So it's an actual selected group of people you can, and there's a chair. It's a less open group, but there's more kind of focused initiatives that happen
And this is
across
cross
the group.
company.
Yeah, across the whole group, so lots of companies, so all the companies in the group. So we've got people on. We had people on there from Australia, from America, Vietnam, everywhere. You know,
And you
would
two
come
run that.
together.
You two run that.
I used to co-chair it. Lynsey was on there as well as as an ally and advocate, but there was pillars for it. So we had a pillar for, and they still do without me. There's a pillar for neurodiversity, one for sort of ability, so disabilities and more physical abilities, and one for carers, which Lynsey's really quite present in. She's present in quite a few of them, but she really resonates with that one really well. And we do these things called inclusive insights, where we give a peek into somebody else's perspective of life, and it goes out monthly.
Oh, that's cool.
Sounds really good.
Yeah.
How do people get involved in that then? How, like, is there somewhere like a link they can go to, or
If they work at Nash with the Nash Group or Harvey Nash Group, they can get in touch with their people team, and they'll give them
right?
a
So
thing. But
it's
it's
within the Harvey
internal.
Nash.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, it's
So
within.
this is the
Yeah,
interesting thing, right? And I think it's the same with like ANS. We've got the Squirrel Group, right?
hmm
And I think these groups need to be externalized much more.
Oh, that would be awesome, wouldn't it? Like I
We
think,
have had that
let's link
conversation.
up. Let's
Yeah.
link it up now that we're
Yeah.
ANS and
Maybe
Lynsey's.
the four of us should get together and think
Yeah.
about that properly, because I think I mean, obviously we can't take the squirrel name, but I think there could be. It sounds like it's a combination of that ERG and the Squirrel Group
Yeah.
is
Yeah,
where
definitely.
the happy place is,
Mm.
and
Yeah.
I think it would be pretty big. I think.
Yeah, it would be
Yeah.
great to have a community, something that we do as a community around that would be
Yeah.
awesome. Because then, if you are an end user, like I was at that military charity, working quite isolated in a silo, it gives you an outlet to come into that community group,
Yeah.
right? That would be awesome. Yeah, we should definitely look at doing something like that. But yeah, uncomfortable on there, and I think one of the things that helped. We were talking about accessibility on there, and there was a really eloquent guy from the States on there, and we were talking. He's really passionate about physical ability, and we were talking about you would never build an office without a ramp, and that's exactly what you're doing if you're designing a system that somebody can't access. And having those comparative, like comparisons across physical and digital accessibility, it was quite uncomfortable for me to say. People send me slides every day and I can't read them. That's an uncomfortable thing to say. I don't like saying it, but it's true.
You said it though.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think.
But not only that, not sorry to jump in there, John.
Yeah.
Not
Sure.
only that, when Kayleigh's saying things like will admit something like that, what we've then been able to do, because all of a sudden someone who doesn't have an issue with reading a slide deck as it comes would never really even think about the fact that somebody else might struggle, because it just doesn't occur to you, does it? So then having that conversation and realizing, oh, that's, again, it's like a light bulb moment. Okay, what can we do about that? And Kayleigh then, as this specific example, Kayleigh then took us through some of the tools that she uses did some internal presentations, said, look, guys, this is really helpful. Did you know that when you put together a PowerPoint presentation, the order in which, like, you might, I don't know, put together an agenda, and you might put, all right, okay, well, I'm going to start with an intro and I'm going to finish with a conclusion, and then I'm going to build out that middle bit. Did you know that actually a screen reader will read it in the order that you've put it on that slide deck, not the order that it ends up in?
Yeah.
And everybody sat there was kind of like, no, I would never even think about that. So, okay, what can we do to help that? And actually, the amount of people that I know, Kayleigh, you had people contact you, didn't you, saying, okay, I don't really need a screen reader, but I've tried it since you said it. And, oh God, it makes such a difference, reading documents and long emails, that sort of stuff.
And it's not.
So just the impact is really quite far reaching. And like you said, John, if we can come together to kind of spread that word as well, that's only going to be a positive thing.
It's not unconscious bias, is it?
No.
Like the thing that you're.
It's unawareness.
It's. But I don't think it's even. I can't even put the finger on the term. It's just, I suppose it's unawareness.
Yeah, you're not. It's not malicious. You're not doing it on purpose, but you're completely unaware. It's
But I also think there are some times where, yes, there is obviously unconscious bias. This might be something that gets cut, but hey, I'm going to just say it anyway. But what I'm trying to say is that I think people are aware of that, and so maybe refrain from saying things or asking the questions that they need to ask.
Yeah.
Of, say, someone who has got dyslexia, right? Because they might feel uncomfortable asking that question.
Yeah, 100%.
But then that implies then that the only way that you're going to answer that question is, A, you need to unconsciously know what they're going to ask, but it's in their subconscious anyway. So how, as someone who is dyslexic, how do you get that across? Because you don't even know what the question is.
Yeah.
Like, you see what I mean?
And I think it's having those conversations with people who are brave enough to ask the questions. And I would massive shout out to my old line manager, who literally, he's just an awesome person anyways, but he was like,
who's
hey,
he?
I
Sorry?
genuinely, Adam, he just didn't, he admitted that there was a lack of knowledge there that he thought that he should have around alt text, for instance. I was like, for me, it was just a blanket statement of saying you need to add alt text for your images. And he came back afterwards and went, Kayleigh, I've sat there with the alt text and I genuinely don't know what to put in there. And I was like, oh, okay, well, let me teach you. And it's people saying things like that and saying, and what would be helpful to you for alt text, because I don't know whether to go to the level of detail of this, I don't know, a million leaves on that tray, to, how much do you need? What is the context? What do I need? What's relevant? What is helpful? When do I mark something as decorative? What do I do? And, then I said, well, if you don't know it, everybody else isn't going to know it, so let's do a session on that as well. You know what I mean? So it's those brave people that kickstart those conversations.
I've always I've said this a few times, but it's really interesting, like, if you don't use a screen reader, to just use one and just see what it does, and especially if you're building things, to see how, like, if you like can't see your screen, if you can't read for whatever reason, whether that's dyslexia, whether that's poor vision, whatever it is, just to see what the experience is like, to have that information fed back to you in that way, and just see how, like, sometimes things like trip up with the way that you lay out and what you put in alt text. Like,
it's a different experience as well. We've had a guy that works with us who said, I said, try using it on Microsoft Learn. And because some people learn better when they're spoken to, try putting it on Microsoft Learn, and people are like, oh my God, that's great. Like, I don't need it, but actually that's helping me retain the information better.
Absolutely. And it's sometimes those accessibility features are not just for accessibility in what I guess we may deem as like a traditional accessibility term, but actually just to, like, help you consume the content, right?
Exactly.
They're all tools.
There's quite a lot of assumptions made about it as well. So what comes with that is, when, like, screen readers were first mentioned between us and our teams at the time, there were people that were kind of like, oh, well, they're just going to sound like robots. I don't want to listen to those. Well, go and have a play with them. There's different voices you can try. And they've tried different voices, and the feedback. I've got one guy in my team who literally a couple of weeks ago said to me, oh, yeah, Kayleigh had mentioned about Microsoft Learn and using a screen reader. I tried it and I played about with the voices, and I've picked a voice that I think, I'm happiest listening to. It just sounds like someone's chatting to me. And I was like, I know. It's like, wow, this is crazy. So it's just that knowledge, like you say, that knowledge sharing, that actually the tools are out there, they're available to all of us, and actually they're really quite good now. They've come on so much in recent years. So, again, it's something I'm lucky enough to be in a position that I don't need those things, but I am actually using them more and more now. It's just getting used to it, isn't it? Making it a habit.
It's also like that also then helps to give you awareness of like people who have to rely on those tools more, and how you can build better to support them.
Yeah. And the end users of the systems and the solutions that we're building.
Yeah.
They're going to use these apps. Well, what if they can't? What if they are colorblind? What if they need a screen reader? How is that? And one of the things we've been talking about, less probably on the ERG because it's more specific to our jobs and our roles. So Kayleigh and I have been having more of these conversations about this has got to be part of the design, like from day one, not an afterthought at the end of the project when you're just doing those tidy up bits, removing all your unnecessary views or whatever it is you're doing. This has got to be from day one, and it's got to be woven into the fabric of every app that we're building and every solution that we're designing. And that's a big change. It won't happen overnight.
No.
But I think some of the teams that I've worked with, it's speaking more openly about it, as took it from a place where everyone thought I had OCD issues because I can't stand a table without an icon, because I can't read the name of the icons in the sitemap very easily. So you put an icon there, it's like a light bulb moment for me. I just got to look at the pictures. So jigsaw pieces, they don't do nothing for me. Thank you. So like I'm very OCD about it. And then also like the status reason and owner in the top of the header, I'm very pedantic that they're the same throughout the whole build. And that's cognitive load as well, right? So we talk massively about those standards and how when people understood the reason why, they stopped from being like, oh, Kayleigh's so particular, to Kayleigh has a reason she's doing this, and it's to make this accessible for everybody that uses it.
And it's just that understanding, isn't it, as to the why, not just the why is it happening, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's funny enough, I was thinking about this last night as well, because I went to South Coast Summit in 2022, and I think Donna did a keynote there as well about accessibility. And one of the things she mentioned, and it keeps coming back to me because it actually did happen to me as well, is actually like accessibility and like using the app as well. So if you don't have an internet connection, if you've got an unstable internet connection, how many people are you actually unconsciously excluding from using your service because you haven't got offline capability? I think she mentioned, if you used an example of they went to like Africa to speak with the government about getting Teams, and then Teams wasn't offline capable, so they weren't able to get to their calendars to like see when appointments were or where they needed to go. And that was like a key like thing in Africa, that the infrastructure isn't wherever they were. I can't remember exactly where it was, but it wasn't as good as it could be. So you need that offline capability. And actually, as a field service engineer, that happened to me when we had a system put in place to manage our calls on a laptop, and actually. Yeah, it was fine when I was in the city centre. As soon as I went out to like the New Forest down the road, like there's no mobile signal. I don't know where I'm going now. I've got to drive to the nearest town. Hope I get like 2G of signal to like download that call detail. Like, and it's design thinking like that. The way that you design the system to make sure that if it's not perfect, if it's not like it is how you're sat in your office with your stable broadband connection, or you can see everything on the screen. Like you have to think about those things. It's amazing when you've come across those instances where it hasn't been thought about.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
But it happens to all of us, right? We all make that mistake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like we've said before, you've got to make that mistake to realize it's a mistake that you need to write.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
we've all got to make it. But if we can, I don't know, like we say, combine our shared quite loud voices, because none of us are very quiet, let's be honest, to shout a bit louder about it. Why not?
I'm not quiet on here, but everywhere else I tend to be a bit more quiet. But I can talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be great.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
That's a deal.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Let's be all of our accountability partners to set this up. I'm making a pact now.
Yeah.
So you see, when I said earlier that Kayleigh gets me into other stuff, I've now got 3 of you doing it.
Yeah.
All right, guys. I think that's all we got time for today. But it's been an absolutely wild 45 minutes. Thank you, Kayleigh and Lynsey, for coming onto the show. You can find Kayleigh and Lynsey's details on LinkedIn and reach out to them on there. Links to resources mentioned in this episode will be in the show notes. Music today was provided by our good friend Ken Like Fit. You can find his music on Spotify, the link to which you can find in this episode's show notes. Any additional music we may have used in this episode is credited there as well. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss the next episode. We would also really appreciate it if you gave us a follow on LinkedIn, and if you're enjoying the podcast, please give us a review on your chosen podcast platform. Thank you. This has been Sprint Zero, and we've been John Russell. Say goodbye, John.
Bye.
Kayleigh and Lynsey. Say goodbye, Kayleigh and Lynsey.
Bye.
And I've been Mike Gowland. We'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now.
Love you, Mike. Love you, Lynsey.
I love you too.
Love you, Kayleigh.
Hey.
I'm Sean. I run the Architects Accelerator. It's an 8-week training program to help you become a solutions architect. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you how awesome it is. We're just going to hear from previous participants.
My name's Mike Colling.
My name is Sander.
Hi, I'm Danielle.
Hi, I'm Luke.
Hi, I'm Callum. I work as a senior functional consultant.
I signed up for this because it sounded something that I hadn't seen anywhere else.
And that's what I liked about this course, is that we were focusing about taking the right requirement and proposing to the customer the right solution.
It's showing how to use the whole platform and how to build better solutions that could last a long time.
I don't have a background in software, and given that it's changing so fast every single day, I needed a guided way of learning. If the solution architect is the direction I want to go, I have taken something from every day of those classes and have applied them to my work.
Found it really useful and I really enjoyed it.
Use promo code SPRINT0 to get $50 off.